morning the powerful black car rolled into the small neighborhood park, no one expected a miracle to step out of it. People expected power suits, phone calls, maybe a bodyguard. They did not expect a mother carrying a silence so heavy it felt louder than any scream. But that was exactly what stepped onto the sunlit grass that day a woman who had conquered boardrooms yet could not reach her own child's voice. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that change lives, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whisper Tales 3. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the smallest encounters rewrite the biggest destinies. Aria Vance was known across the city as the steel-hearted CEO of a thriving tech empire. Her name filled business magazines, her decisions moved markets, and her presence commanded respect. But that morning, under the soft golden daylight, none of that mattered. She was simply a mother holding the hand of her 7-year-old son, Rowan, who had not spoken a single word since the night his father died in a car accident 2 years ago. Rowan's silence was not medical. Doctors had ruled out physical causes, therapists had tried gentle exercises, storytelling sessions, even animal therapy. Nothing worked. His once lively laughter had vanished the same night the flashing red and blue lights reflected against their living room window. Since then, his world had shrunk into quiet nods and distant stares. Aria had built billion-dollar solutions for clients, but she could not fix the one thing that mattered most. Her days were packed with meetings, but her nights were filled with guilt. She blamed herself for not driving that night, for not insisting her husband take a different route, for not protecting her son from seeing the aftermath. Success felt empty in the face of her child's grief. The park had been recommended by Rowan's therapist. Let him be around other children, they had said. Don't push him, just let him observe. So Aria rearranged her entire schedule, canceled a shareholder call, and chose a simple white blouse instead of her usual tailored jacket. She wanted to feel like any other parent. Sunlight filtered through tall trees, children's laughter drifted across the swings, and the scent of freshly cut grass filled the air. Rowan clung to her hand at first, his wide hazel eyes scanning the unfamiliar space. Aria knelt beside him and gently squeezed his fingers before guiding him toward a quiet bench near the sandbox. That was when chaos arrived in the form of 3 identical boys racing across the playground like a tiny tornado. They were loud, fearless, and utterly unstoppable. One climbed the jungle gym backward. Another attempted to balance on the edge of the sandbox. The third was busy lecturing a squirrel as if it were an old friend. Trailing behind them was a man in worn jeans and a faded blue shirt, his hair slightly disheveled but his eyes warm and attentive. His name was Elias Moreau, a single father who had mastered the art of chasing 3 6-year-olds at once. Life had not been gentle with him. His wife had passed away shortly after giving birth to their triplets, leaving him to navigate diapers, midnight fevers, and heartbreak alone. Elias had once dreamed of becoming an architect. Now he worked flexible shifts at a local workshop, sacrificing promotions to stay present for his children. He carried exhaustion like a shadow, but love radiated from him stronger than fatigue. One of the triplets Miko spotted Rowan sitting quietly. Without hesitation, he marched over and plopped down beside him. His brothers, Jasper and Nolan, followed. They did not ask why Rowan was quiet. They did not demand answers. They simply began building an elaborate sandcastle, narrating their plans dramatically as if constructing a kingdom. Rowan watched. At first, he kept his hands in his lap. Aria held her breath, afraid any interruption might shatter the fragile moment. Then Jasper handed Rowan a small red shovel without a word. The gesture was simple, almost careless, but it was an invitation. Rowan hesitated. His fingers twitched. Slowly, he reached out and took the shovel. Elias noticed Aria's tense expression and offered a reassuring smile from a respectful distance. He did not know her story, but he recognized protective fear. He had seen it in the mirror countless times. Minutes passed. The boys worked together in sandy determination. Micah accidentally collapsed one side of the castle and burst into exaggerated despair. Nolan declared they must rebuild stronger. Jasper insisted on adding a moat. Rowan listened, eyes following every movement. Then something unexpected happened. Jasper struggled to lift a bucket filled with sand. It tipped dangerously. Rowan instinctively leaned forward and steadied it. His hands pressed into the sand, shaping it carefully into place. The triplets cheered as if he had saved their empire. The sound of their laughter wrapped around Rowan like sunlight. Aria felt her heart pounding. She had seen flickers of engagement before, but never this natural, this unforced. Elias walked over quietly and sat on the edge of the bench. careful not to intrude. He spoke softly about how children sometimes understand each other in ways adults never could. He admitted that his boys had taught him resilience more than he had taught them. For weeks after that day, Aria returned to the park every morning. Meetings were rescheduled. Emails were answered later. The park became sacred ground. Rowan began participating more, first with gestures, then with quiet smiles. The triplets treated him like one of their own, arguing over whose team he belonged to during imaginary adventures. One bright morning, as the boys pretended to be explorers crossing a dangerous lava field of mulch, Nolan tripped and scraped his knee. He bit his lip, fighting tears. The world seemed to pause. Rowan stepped forward, eyes wide with concern, and then, in a voice fragile but clear as morning light, he whispered, "It's okay." The words were small, but they shattered 2 years of silence. Aria dropped to her knees, tears streaming freely, as sunlight glowed around her son like a blessing. Elias froze, watching the moment unfold with quiet awe. The triplets stared at Rowan, then erupted into celebration as if he had just scored the winning goal in the world's most important game. Rowan looked startled by his own voice, but he did not retreat. Instead, he knelt beside Nolan and repeated softly, "It's okay." That afternoon, the park felt different, lighter, alive with possibility. Aria realized that while she had been searching for expensive solutions, healing had been waiting in ordinary sunlight, in scraped knees, in children who did not ask for explanations. Elias and Aria began talking more over the following weeks, not about business or grief in heavy detail, but about small victorious first words, first smiles, first nights without tears. Their shared understanding formed a bridge between two wounded hearts. Aria learned that strength was not in control but in connection. Elias learned that accepting help was not weakness but courage. And Rowan learned that silence did not have to be permanent. Months later, the powerful black car still arrived at the park each morning. But now it carried laughter. Rowan's voice grew stronger each day, shaped by friendship and fearless play. The once silent boy now shouted battle plans and argued about castle designs with passionate determination. The park had not just changed Rowan, it had changed all of them. Sometimes miracles do not come in dramatic flashes. Sometimes they arrive disguised as triplets with sandy hands and a father too tired to give up. Sometimes healing begins when someone simply hands you a red shovel and makes room for you in their kingdom. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe to Whisper Tales 3 to keep these meaningful stories alive. And before you go, I have a special request. Comment the word hope below if you believe even the quietest hearts can find their voice again, because in the warmth of an ordinary day, under the open sky, a silent boy spoke, and in doing so, reminded everyone that kindness can rebuild even the most fragile castles.